Unconditional election means that God has planned to choose or abandon humans according to his own pleasure before creation, that salvation is an unconditional choice by God's sovereignty, not by our ethical conduct or by our faith. This doctrine emphasizes God's absolute sovereignty, the core of Calvinism, and encourages obedience by relying on God's goodwill and grace. This doctrine contrasts with Arminian's conditional selection, and also contrasts with absolute and foreknowledge prediction. Arminian insists on foresight. Historically, most scholars in the Reformed tradition have described this doctrine in the light of God's sovereignty and mercy, his grace and the total degradation of man, while referring to this point alongside God's universal call to all mankind. Unconditional election can be seen in many verses in the Bible. For example, Ephesians chapter 1 verse 4 says, "For he chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight." Matthew chapter 1 verse 21 says, "She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins." Romans chapter 9 from verse 11 to 13 says, "Yet, before the twins were born or had done anything good or bad, in order that God's purpose in election might stand, not by works but by him who calls, she was told, the older will serve the younger. Just as it is written, Jacob I loved, but Esau I hated." Unconditional election is a doctrine that helps us to thank, worship, trust, and obey God. We have been saved not because of our contributions or abilities, but only because of God's grace and love. We only return glory and praise to him.